This Growlithe might be a degree 9, but it could be a PSA 10, and that changes everything. Welcome back to another episode of Guess That Grade, and today we're going to be looking at the Growlithe. If you want to skip around the video, here are the timestamps for your enjoyment. Alright, so let's talk about money, because unfortunately feelings don't pay for our grading fees. Now when we're looking at the most cost-effective way to actually save money here on grading, if you want to go with a company like PSA, go to your local GameStop, find out if they send out PSA cards, and go with them. It's $20 per card, $5 for total shipping. So if you have a group of cards, this is a great way to save money. Now the card is actually worth $15, and if you bought that up front, that's $15 you put into the card already. Plus $25 of shipping is about $40. So technically on a PSA 9, you wouldn't be making money. But if you pulled this card, you could be making a profit. $31 is greater than $25, so you get $6 back. And a PSA 10, you'd be making $93. So you really have to balance that out for yourself. Ultimately, it's up to you on whether this card is actually worth grading or not. Alright, now let's see if the borders behave today. Now after scanning the card, we're going to go to the TAGGrading website and throw in our image of our card in there. First, we're doing the front of the card, and then we're going to be able to determine if this card is within tolerance. Now, when you're trying to determine that, it's very important for you to determine if you're going with like PSA, tag, or degree grading. In our case, we're doing degree grading for this card. We can see here that the tolerance for a Gem Mint 10 is way more strict. There is zero leniency for degree grading, and unless it says it's a 50 out of 50, it's not going to get a Gem Mint 10 for that front centering. Unfortunately for us, we have a 12% difference on the top and bottom, and that is actually outside the 10% tolerance for PSA and tag for a Gem Mint 10. On the left and right, we have a 4% difference that is within tolerance. However, it goes by the worst percentage. And in this case, 12% is higher than that 10% Gem Mint tolerance that is allowed for PSA and tag. So unfortunately, there's no love for us on the Gem Mint side for this card on the front, but let's look at the back anyways, just so we can also do some education on that portion as well. Now again, we're going to go to the TAGGrading app, throw in the back of the card, line up everything perfectly again, and then depending on what grading service you're looking at again, we have to determine is this in the Gem Mint tolerance. Again, PSA, tag, degree are actually different on the back. There's a lot more leniency for PSA. They have a 50% tolerance, tag has a 30, and degree allows for 6%. And on the top and bottom of this card, we can see there's a 12% difference, and then on the left and right, we can see there's a 4% difference, the same as the front actually. And on here, the 12% falls into the tolerance acceptability for PSA and tag, but is still above that degree. And unfortunately for us, we're going with degree. So based off just the centering, we already know we're starting at a 9 for the value of this card. Now it's time to see what the naked eye politely ignored. Now when I first take the card out of the sleeve, I like to get a microfiber cloth and clean it off on the front and back just to get any oil prints and dust, anything that might be sitting on the card that could potentially impact the grading of it. Now we have a really nice LED light right on top of us, and so what we're doing is we're going to slowly just tilt this around to look for any scratches or scuffs, stains, anything that's going to be noticeable with the naked eye. That's the first real big way to figure anything else out. Now, another thing you could potentially do just to see these things differently as well is having a black light, which I don't currently have in place today, but in future videos, you will see me using that later on. Now, on the front of the card, there's a small hollow speck on the bottom left border near the illustrator's name. It's incredibly hard to see, and I don't do a good job of taking a picture of it. Now, there is also a light indentation or scratch on the bottom border underneath that 181 count, which is almost on the edge, just underneath the Game Freak symbol. Now, as we flip the card into the back, there seems to be that same indentation right where that Game Freak symbol is, but it's on the back as well. Now, as we start scanning around the card a little bit more, right where that Pokemon title is, right above that K, there is a light and obvious speck as well. And then as we go through, and again, I like to check the borders first on the card and then work my way through the center of the card and work down. But as we're checking that border, we see some light scuffs on the top right border as well. Edges are perfect, the corners, however, chose chaos. Now, similar to the surface of the card, I like to work on one part first, then work my way around. The first thing I like to do is look at the actual edge of the card, and then just go on the front and then work my way around the card. For the edges though, I don't see anything that stands out to me that's actually impacting the card or value of it. So that makes it very easy for me because I can just switch over now to the corners. Now in the bottom left corner of the card, we see some very light chipping, which is unfortunate because if it's openly available to the naked eye, then that's definitely going to impact the grade. So we already started at a 9 just off the centering. This is definitely going to impact it more because it's obviously an eyesore. Now at the top right, there's also a very small white speck as well, which can definitely impact the score. And depending on the grading services you go through, some of them allow a certain amount of tolerance levels for the amount of white specks you could potentially have to still be gradable within a PSA 10 or a tag 10. But in this case with degree grading, we already know that it's automatically getting a 9 for centering. We also know that the corners are going to impact it as well just a little bit. Now that we looked at the card in its totality from the centering, the surface, the corners, and edges, we have to determine what the actual score is. So my estimated grade is an 8. Now this card is debatable depending on what grading company you're going with. Now I think that this card has a good chance of getting a PSA 9 personally, or potentially even a tag 9. However, with degree grading, I think they are a little bit more strict than the other two. So I believe this card will get an 8 on the most aggressive side, but I think if we're being a little bit more lenient, it may get a 9 on that side as well. Now this is really interesting for us to figure out because the amount of whitening or dots, whether it's factory imprinted or whether it's a cut issue or anything like that, is all taken into account and is facilitated differently depending on who you're going with. So it's not only about learning what to look for and how to grade those things, but how each grading company takes it differently. And in this case, I think Degree will give that 8, but we'll double check when it comes in and we'll see what happens. Now, if you like this sort of content, please give me a like and a follow, because when this card does come back in, I'm going to reveal the official grade and compare it to our investigation of the card itself. And then after that, this card will probably also go to either PSA or tag. We'll see at that time and see if they also agree with degree grading, which I think will be a very, very fun experiment. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching this channel. It means so much to me because I spent a lot of time putting this together. But until next time, keep guessing that grade.